introduce themselves here in just a second. What's that mean? I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. But I do want to just tell you guys, we have some questions. But also, we will open it up and let you guys ask some questions if you have anything in particular. So write that down. Be ready to ask questions when we get to that point. So we try to get a panel together of people that are in different areas of short-term rental. All right. So one of the things I tell people all the time, like, I want to get into real estate. I'm like, what do you mean? Because there's a million ways to make money in real estate. And the same goes with short-term rental. You don't have to do the same thing that your friend does to make money in real estate. All right? So each one of these has a different story. Each one of these panelists has a different story. And so we're going to hopefully tease that a little bit, and so that you can learn from that and see how maybe it fits into your business, or you maybe take a piece of everybody's story and put it in and make your own story. All right? So I will start with David right here. David, if you'll just tell us who you are, name, background, and just how you got started. Don't go into the whole story yet. How did you get started in Airbnb?
All right. Yeah, I'm David Bergmann. Our business is Heartwood Furnished Homes. We do property management specifically for short-term rentals. So that's where I'm at now. That's not how I got started. I got started basically coming here and learning about real estate investing. Bought a house of our own, fixed it up over in Earlwood, turned it into a short-term rental, and just wanted to give that a shot at the time. I wasn't really sure back in 2017, 2018 if that was really viable, because there weren't a lot of people doing it, and I discovered there was something there, and just haven't looked back since. And we kind of got into property management by way of becoming more experienced with our own places, and then having people ask us to help them out with their properties.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And are you full-time?
I'm full-time.
Okay. Itzel?
Yep, hi, my name is Itzel, Alicea, and I did insurance for 20 years full-time, actually 24 years, and stepped away from that full-time to do real estate. And how we got in, my partner and I got into Airbnbs, it actually became one of our exit strategies for one of the houses we couldn't sell. We had just renovated it, and we couldn't get what we wanted for it, so we decided that we kept hearing about short-term rentals. We had plenty of long-term rentals, so we decided to kick that one off. That was in the Avenues in Casey, and it just took off. It took off for us, and it just made us really excited, and we ended up putting 4 Airbnbs over the time that we've had our business. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
And so now you're full-time as well.
Oh, I'm full-time, yes.
Hey, Anthony, Alberti. So I have kind of not been in real estate, but I've been studying. I read about a book a week, maybe sometimes 2, just YouTube University, Audible. And I've learned about real estate for so long, like the last 5 years, and just didn't do anything, didn't take any action. Over the last year, I kind of heard about rental arbitrage. I knew that Airbnb was viable, but I didn't understand the semantics of like the actual analytics of how viable it was. I stayed in the Airbnb and I said, you know what, I'm curious, how much money do they spend? I know no one lives here. This was like 2 years ago. I sat there and said, okay, let me look at these numbers. Let me put an Amazon cart together and see how much did they pay to furnish this thing. I looked at those numbers and I was like, well, when you furnish it, it's this much to do something, like to get the mortgage, or you actually had all this other stuff. I said to myself, okay, let's get a property and do this. And then I learned about rental arbitrage, and I spent 6 months just learning about it. I said, you know what? I told my wife, we're just going to go out, we're going to pitch one. So got one, and another, working on 2 more right this second, hopefully getting another one in a little bit. So I am full-time doing this. It wasn't really my venture for real estate to do the short-term rental, but I saw an opportunity in the market, and instead of just sitting by like I've done for a lot of things, I took advantage of it, and I went full throttle.
Awesome. So everybody at GBC started a little bit different. but they all are now full-time, and they're all now here talking to us. So thank you all for being here, first of all. And so I have a couple questions, and we'll just go through and let's just see where this panel takes us. And again, y'all can, we'll get some questions from the crowd here in just a minute. So the first question that, for me, and this is a little bit selfish, just so y'all know, was why in the world would I do short-term rental? Why in the world would I deal with a new guest every night and deal with washing their sheets every night and deal with their complaints when the light bulb doesn't turn on? As opposed to the house that I rent out for a year and I don't talk to them again for a year. Why would I do that? And I'm going to start right here with David. Why would I do short-term instead of long-term?
Because of the money. You're usually looking at somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 times long-term rents. That's just a rule of thumb. I mean, some properties are a little different, but so meaning if you had a property that would normally rent long-term for like $1,000, maybe you could get 2,000 to 3,000. So that's quite a bit more money, but it comes with a lot more work and cost as well that Andrew mentioned. So all of that difference in revenue isn't pure profit, but there is more profit there to be made, more cash flow to be made. So I would say that's the number one thing that why you're going to want to do a short-term rental over a long-term rental.
Do you have anything different?
Yeah, I would agree with David. Just to give you an example, we had a long-term rental on Rosewood Drive, and we were getting, it's a 2-1, we were getting $1,400 a month long-term, a great tenant, but they left, and it was one of the houses we had recently renovated, so it was after the one we launched that we were so excited about, so we decided to launch that one, and we're averaging about $2,300 a month on that rental property, so it's just insane the amount of how lucrative it can be if it's managed correctly. And then for me, we have a lot of long-term properties together. What I like about the short-term rentals is, for us, it's less wear and tear on the property. Because people are in and out, they're turning over a lot quicker than a long-term tenant would, and so your repairs are not as significant as they would be with the short-term rental.
And so that is one of the fears for people, I would say, one of my fears, and I'm going to ask you this, Anthony, because it's, you're in a different situation, and we'll explain arbitrage in a second, but I would be afraid these tenants, these guests come, and they party all the time, and then they leave town, and they tear up my house, and I fix it every time they leave. Are you seeing that?
Not at all. So you're going to get a couple bad apples, and that's going to happen. It's like a law of numbers, and the more you build, the more that's going to happen. Just a law of averages. It's going to happen. But the wear and tear, there's no way. So most of the people that I pitch to are landlords, right? They're people that are just trying to rent out the property. And I say 4 things to them every single time. I know this isn't an additional question that you said, but the 4 things that I say is, number 1, I'm going to pay you rent that you want. It would affect me just the same way. The other thing is I care about your property just as much as you do. Number 2, it's going to be professional cleaning for every single visit. So all the little things that you have with someone being in there for a year when you don't know what it's going to look like, you're not in there, you got to get the notice to get in there if you really want to. I don't take care of my house, I feel like, to the extent that I take care of the short-term rentals. Like, I don't clean my bathroom as much as I get these bathrooms cleaned to an extent. Number 4, I'm going to cover repairs up to a certain dollar point. And then 4, I'm going to help your ROI, your vacancy rate. So when I look at those things, I don't see where there's more wear and tear, but that is the number 1 thing I think people really think about whenever they hear Airbnb.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one. So you see the same thing, less wear and tear?
I see less.
Yeah.
Significantly less. And you're addressing these issues as they pop up, because a long-term guest, they have a drip in the ceiling, or long-term tenant rather, they have a drip in the ceiling. You may know about it, 3 months later?
Yeah.
Trust me, when that Airbnb guest gets in there, they're going to let you know about that right away. Make sure that they know that wasn't them, and that we expect somebody to fix it tonight if possible.
Yeah.
So things do get addressed just by that very nature of them being an immediate need.
Which is why I don't Airbnb. I don't want to fix it tonight, which is why we get property management. I want to hit on what is arbitrage, because Anthony has a different business model than what most people would think of. So there might be people that don't know what that word means. So could you just give a definition of what that is and just brief overview? You don't have to tell the whole book.
All right, so master lease could be another term for it, or corporate lease, that could be another aspect of it. But arbitrage is basically renting out from a landlord and then subletting, hosting other guests, whatever terminology that you want to say. So you sign a lease with somebody, whether it's for you, whether it's for your business, however you decide to structure it yourself. You create some sort of addendum or some sort of agreement, because a lease is just an agreement. It's not law, it's agreement. It gets held to law if you break the agreement. So we agree upon the terms. You create maybe some sort of commercial lease addendum to where you're allowed to host other guests within the property for the duration of the lease.
Right. And so you would make money how?
Anything on top. So it's just like cash flow from any real estate venture. If you buy a property, you have a mortgage most likely, or you buy it free and clear, you have insurance and taxes. Anything past that you rent out, that's what cash flow is. In any business, anything profit becomes the cash flow for your business. So I pay the rent, I have my operating costs and all the utilities and everything else, and I work to get more money on top of that. Everything past that is the profit.
Right. Great. And so I can tell you, as a landlord who owns property, and we do long-term rentals, there are plenty of landlords that are renting houses that are just barely making the mortgage, taxes, and insurance with that long-term rent. So you could essentially be making the same amount of money and never own the house because you're doing arbitrage. So that's another way to do it. And guys, how much money did you use to get started?
So I put $10,000 in myself. A lot of what I've been doing is kind of credit card turning to an extent. If I can get an interest-free credit card for 15 months and make that money, because I get based off the trajectory of what I'm doing, I'll get 100% ROI off of the money that I put into my investments at the end of the year. And I just don't see many things besides a Berg where you can kind of do that 100% ROI within a time frame.
Yeah, love it.
I might just add just a couple other benefits is being able to use the property yourself. A lot of people think that has a lot of value. So, you may have family coming in town and you want them to stay at your place. Like, that's cool. Or maybe there's a lake property or vacation rental destination where you want to, invest, and then you can make use of that property yourself. And I would say other things that people like about short-term rentals is I had one in my head. I forgot. I'll have to come back to it.
I will say that for us in our business, we did have an experience where someone came and trashed our Airbnb, and we actually worked with Airbnb to get reimbursed on the things that they trashed in our property. It was brand new. We had just renovated it, and then we had like cigarette burns in the carpet, cigarette burns on the new vanity that we had put in, and so we worked through the Airbnb process to get reimbursed for the damage that was done on our unit. So that was really nice, because as soon as that person checked out and we recognized what happened, it took I wouldn't say, but a couple of weeks of submitting pictures, letting them know what the before and the after. We got reimbursed through Airbnb for the damage that they did on our property. So again, short-term versus long-term, we won't know it until the tenant actually moves out, that the pipe is busted and the ceiling is caving in until you actually move it.
Yeah, and if it's a long-term guest, you're good luck getting that money from them.
Yeah.
The nice thing is Airbnb carries coverage for that, where if it was a long-term guest and you had to go to your insurance, now you have long-term issues because now your insurance score has gone down. So that's another benefit that most people probably don't think about. Did you figure it out?
It's a sale-ready property, so a lot of people like that too.
Yeah, because you just sold one.
Yeah, I mean, you can basically just take it, and it's furnished too, so you can see this is a beautiful property. It showcases it. You've got professional pictures, so you're not going to have to, you can literally list it the next day and have people come in and use their electronic door locks. You don't even need a realtor box.
Yeah. That is a good thing.
Which helped us during the pandemic when all travel stopped, and we had 4 Airbnbs going at the time, and then of course we had nothing but cancellations when it first hit. And so 2 of them, we just sold them because they were ready. They looked good,
Yeah.
they were furnished, and we were able to sell them. And then the others we converted into long-term rentals until we got through that.
I think that's a part of my pitch too. Like, I'm going to keep your property in for sale condition for the duration of the lease.
Yeah.
One thing I will always say to you is that, see this picture right here? This is what it's going to look like
Forever,
the entire
yeah, well
time.
done. So let's give some practical advice on making a 5-star short-term rental. Like, what can you put in it? What little extras do you do? What kind of communication do you, what kind of cadence do you have with your tenant or your guests coming in? Let's give some practical advice. Maybe 3 tips from each of you, if you can think 3. I'll start with you, Nikki.
Okay, so first off, realize this is not a real estate play, it's a hospitable play. So if you're not a hospitable person, don't fit into this venture. That's the number one thing I'd say.
Cancel yourself out.
People think of it as a real estate play, but in reality, it's kind of not. It's a hospitality business. And so if you're not hospitable, it's not. So guest communication is kind of the number one. And I recommend something like Hospitable, or it used to be called Smart B&B. They probably have different softwares that they use potentially, so I'm not actually messaging, it's kind of automated messaging. But hospitality is number one, so guest communication is probably one of the biggest things. Creating I see people coming here, when they come, they're not really coming to stay at my place. They're coming here for an event. They're coming here for something, graduation at Fort Jackson, going to the zoo, coming to see their student at USC. So I don't go crazy with the amenities, maybe like some of these other. I'm not a luxury unit whenever I think of these. So reality, I like to have like the bare necessities of what you would expect to get in the hotel. I mean, I want to make sure that you have plenty of towels. I want to make sure you have the hand towels. I want to make sure that you have a coffee station, because that's something you would really kind of expect from there. And then I guess my third thing, going past the little basic necessities, is have a TV and have something for them to be able to watch. So each one of our properties has a nice size TV. They all have Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, so they can kind of go in there without having to put their stuff in, or have something that they can sit down and enjoy while being there.
Good. Itzel? All your secrets.
I agree that the experience, the guest experience is definitely, I think, sometimes what sets you apart from other Airbnbs. We've had repeat guests come just because one, the communication needs to be on par, the cleanliness of the unit needs to be on par, and then they need to feel comfortable being in your space. So if they're traveling, a lot of our guests sometimes check in at night, in the middle of the night, and so it needs to be safe. It needs to be in a safe environment, the lights are on, and the place itself needs to be comfortable. They feel like, I guess, they're at home. So how many tips is that?
If you're done, you can be done.
Yeah, at least 7.
Yeah.
So I'd say making everything in the house friendly or just idiot-proof.
Yes.
Just as much as you can. Like, don't get the Nest thermostat, in my opinion. Like, people can't figure it out and you don't want the calls. Anything like that that could possibly be like technology or difficult to understand, just take it out of the house and just simplify it. That's usually going to be a big help. And if you need labels or stuff so that people can figure out where things are because you're getting the same questions, just go ahead and take that extra step, because then that's going to help with that experience. Other thing is just like be super honest about your listing and the description. You don't want to say you have something and then they get there and they don't have it. Make sure that it's clear how much parking there is, where they would be parking, how they're going to enter, how many beds you have. Make sure you're accurate with your sizes, all that stuff. As long as you're accurate about it, and if you're in a not a great location, like have a way to phrase that lets them know that ahead of time, because the worst thing is if the guests would show up and then just be unhappy with it, and then you don't have anything to point to say that you were transparent in that after the fact. So I think that's a big one, is just be as transparent as you can, so that you're setting that expectation. Other things along the same lines, just make sure the photos are accurate. Don't over fishbowl it like we see in real estate. Just pretty neutral and show what the space really is.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, I want to open it up if anybody has any questions out here, and let's see if we can get some from you guys. Any questions?
I'll go first. Do you think it's worth the time to put together a desk book, like a book that tells people about everything that all the amenities and how to use them?
I think it's just an above and beyond thing. So anytime you can over exceed expectations, then you're creating a win that's kind of effortless to create as well. It doesn't take that much to do it, but it over exceeds expectations. Over promise and over deliver. It's kind of with anything in business.
We have desk books in ours, and so many of the desks use it just to get themselves acquainted with the unit and with the area that they're in. Some never read it, so a lot of the information that's in our desk book is on the listing as well for Airbnb. I like the label I use. I've seen that and I've gone with Airbnb as well. So it does make it the simpler, the better, and the more instruction you give them about the unit, the less questions you get.
This is an area too where you can do virtual guidebooks too. There's a lot of services like that popping up, so that's something to consider too. And that way, if you ever have to change something, you're not, going back and retyping it and then bringing it back out. You can just update it at the link and you're good.
I have two questions. One of them, on the slide that you showed right before y'all started speaking, you had the headlines captured and what's been going on in Columbia. To your point, you're talking about, you got Marriott, it's basically one-off investors versus the hotel chains who can come up with whatever they want to try to, help get these laws passed. Like, they're in with lobbyists and they're also in the local politics. Is there a voice or any groups here that are actively, trying to counteract that? Everybody talking. On the lobbying side, I know you're on the REI, but no. Okay, so.
So I can tell you, and you probably won't say it, but David has kind of taken the charge here locally as a leader of that voice. He's doing a great job. And you might be able to speak to it nationally and state level. You guys got to remember, this isn't new. You all probably went, well, at least I did, when we went to the beach when I was young. We stayed in a weekly rental in a condo near the beach. That's been going on forever. And so there's whole communities, whole cities and towns that are made up of that. And so they are actually fighting on behalf of the individual investor. So if you think about Charleston, they can't put enough hotels to support the amount of restaurants that are there. So they don't want it to go away. Myrtle Beach is the same.
Yeah, I'd say connect on the Facebook group that we have. I'm posting updates pretty regularly there and getting folks informed on council meetings that are taking place or neighborhood meetings. We're just trying to stay as involved as we can. Just try and get the word out about why short-term rentals are a net benefit to the city rather than a net cost, which is how it's being portrayed by some out there. So that Facebook group is Columbia Short-Term Rentals Group, and it's a great spot to connect on that.
Yeah. So good question. The question was, I want to repeat the question just for the audio, is that who's working on behalf of the individual investors? Good question. Ryan.
Has anyone done any research about market saturation in Columbia? And if so, how quickly do you think we're reaching that point of saturation when it comes to short-term rentals? The second part would be, as the interest rates have started to increase by real estate, has anyone seen a decrease in the number of STRs being launched?
So the question being, are we getting the market saturation? Is there any research going on market saturation here locally, and then interest rates that affecting short-term rental purchases? I just did that for the audience. But
So kind of what I look at I'm constantly looking at what's coming up on Airbnb. I'm constantly looking at what's for rent in Columbia, like every day in Wholesale. Just, it's what I do for fun, I think now. So like,
Oh, that's a lot of fun.
I think once all of the Casas and the Evolve and all these other bigger entities, I feel like if they're coming in, then it's changing. Like the argue with the councilman and everything else. People are coming up and taking inventory from people. That's not what's happening with the short-term rental aspect. There's not hedge funds buying a whole bunch of properties for short-term rentals. There are hedge funds buying properties, something wrong with that. But I just don't see Columbia being that eyesore for people to like attack to just come up. I feel like everyone here has like, it's an owner out here that goes and buys one short-term rental and then maybe they'll get a second one. I feel like that's the majority of what's here in Columbia. So I don't see an oversaturation on that aspect. And if anything, if the interest rate's high, people are buying stuff, they're like, oh, I can make this kind of cash flow. Let me buy this property. I don't care what I pay for it because I'll make cash flow. And once the market potentially drops or lowers a little bit, people are going to get scared and all those properties are going to get sold. Because, or, I don't know, they're going to be underwater and they're going to have to, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more than there were before, for sure. There's a lot more competition. And I don't think you can necessarily just put out a bad product like you could when I got started and just take cell phone pictures and there's things that people, grandma's furniture. I think those days are kind of behind us. I think the professional hosts, like the folks up here, the people who really want to exceed with their one or two properties and are doing everything right, I think that's where we're at now. Like those people are going to do well and continue to do well and stand out. But I think the ones who we're doing that other strategy where they were just like, oh, just throw it on Airbnb. I don't know if that's going to work as well unless you're really committed to providing that true 5-star guest experience.
I kind of want to say off of that because it sounds like if you're asking about market saturation, is it okay to get into this market now or is it not? That's kind of what it seems like question mark with that question. Well, if you're hosting on Airbnb, if you're hosting on Airbnb, which you're hosting on a platform, you're on a platform, the platform has a specific way that pushes your thing up to the top. So if you do the SEO research, if you do the things, the KPIs to actually make sure that your listing gets seen, usually if you're seen, you have the higher chance of getting booked. So it's really, there's some people that just put it up there and let it sit, and they hope that it'll work. But that won't work. If you're not adjusting your pricing, you're not updating your pictures and changing your descriptions and doing all these things, that's what promotes it. That's where like the professional hosts, people that know how to work the algorithm to help try to promote their things, even if saturation happens, you're probably doing it a little bit better than someone else.
And I can speak to the saturation as far as like the market, as far as the hotel world is concerned. Columbia is in desperate need of rooms, hotel rooms. Downtown area has a lot of small hotels, so we need bigger hotels. The problem is the convention center is a little bit too small for the big hotels to come in. So there's a little bit of back and forth, and if you do talk to your county council or city council, the expansion is already, that convention center was built to be expanded. They just need a little bit more money and they can expand that, then the big hotels come in and this city turns into a totally different tourism destination. So we are kind of at that cusp, like you said, you can't just throw up a Airbnb and get it booked. You gotta be professional right now. But the city is on the edge of like whether or not we're going to take the next step and be a tourism destination, or are we just going to just stay with the size we have, a lot of 120 room hotels, no more full service, and you're looking more like Florence as opposed to us going to Greenville. So the city is in that mode, and you guys probably feel it if you're in here and you see these restaurants are coming. We got nice restaurants, we got good stuff. So that's kind of some of the things we were talking about with the council is like, we need to be pushing our city, not trying to slow our city down. So the saturation, I don't think we're there. If that's my answer.
I haven't done any research, but I guess from an investment perspective, what's your end game with your property? So why not take advantage of the potential profit versus a long-term rental. And if for whatever reason we're not able to do them again, then you just go back to your long-term rental or capitalize on the fact that you can make more money doing short-term rentals and do it well.
Yeah.
So always have a different plan in place for your properties.
Good thing.
When it comes to the nightly rate and how competitive the pricing is, which I'm constantly fluctuating the average nightly rate to get more bookings and which is this is for about 30 properties at this point. Are you guys using a software? If so, which one?
So how do you get the nightly rates? How do you pick the right rate, put it at the right time? Are you using software or just intuition? What are y'all using?
I have price labs for dynamic pricing, but since I'm not at 30, if I got to probably maybe past 10 to that extent, I'd probably go into something that automates it a little bit more or does some more stuff. I mainly pull the data from price labs and can filter everything myself. I'm constantly working off the week that I'm on now. Everything else that I'm working on is jacked up high. You book it, great, go for it, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm usually working on the week that I'm working on now. That's kind of my strategy, which sounds like probably what you're kind of Yes,
Yeah.
30
30 is not going to work. So,
I can imagine 30 properties. We currently have 2 right now. We self-manage our properties, soon to change, according to David. We have an in-house person that manages our properties today, and so she goes out there and looks at events and updates the prices depending on what's happening in Columbia. Graduations in Fort Jackson are a big thing for where our properties are located in Rosewood and of course downtown Columbia as well. So we just try to keep up with events. But yeah.
I use price labs also. I definitely think with that many properties, definitely look at price labs. They get more, a lot of the softwares get more competitive as you go up in the number of properties. So that's what they'll probably do is just say, I'm bringing this new properties. But the best part about it as far as events is they don't know there's an event here, but they may look out and find, wow, there's 50% occupancy on this random day or weekend in September, and it's just going to bump your prices up because it's seeing that. So you may not even be aware that this is on the academic calendar or whatever you're looking at, but it knows because it can see the market data, see that there's something about those days that you need to be capitalizing on. So that's the advantage of it, is you can kind of not have to be the know-it-all on what's going on in Columbia. You can kind of look at the software to do that work.
How are you guys managing like the turnover of properties? Like you guys with the Airbnb, like once you get it, are you guys doing that yourself or are you guys hiring a team?
so how do we manage turnover? David, what do you do?
It's a really good question. We started out doing it ourselves, and then you find a trustworthy cleaner is usually the next step. Somebody who is willing to learn your checklist and your requirements, and then you're kind of monitoring behind them and inspecting and making sure that they're meeting expectations. And if they are, you can kind of let them go. But now we're at a point where we have a housekeeping manager, and she's doing performing inspections, visiting the property to make sure that our cleaners are doing their job.
So what is like a good rate that you guys like pay them
Like an hourly rate?
Yeah, so
like how you guys
we still do it on a per unit basis. So we have a cleaning fee set per property, which you have to for Airbnb and VRBO. So you set a cleaning fee, let's say it's $100. And our personal strategy is we take some of the inventory out of that. So we'll probably pay the cleaner $85 of the $100, and the $15 goes towards restocking all of the necessities of the property so that it's sufficiently stocked for that experience.
Yeah, for us, it was with ours, we started cleaning it ourselves first. And I always recommend that so you understand what you're doing in your business. But we did it ourselves, and it didn't take long for us to recognize that we need to hire somebody to do it. And that was at the beginning of our business. So we brought on a family member who was handling the cleanings for our properties. flipped houses, and so we have them come into our Airbnbs and give us bids on what they would charge us to clean them and do returns. And that worked well for quite a bit, but we charge $100 for our cleaning fees for our Airbnbs as well.
Say something too, because mine's completely different. So it's a cool perspective to have a lot of different people. So I'm full time. So this is what me and my wife and my 3 kids do. So this is what we do as a family. If you have a window of 5 hours, my check-in time is 10, my checkout time is 3. So if I have someone, I have a 5-hour window of work technically if I have to go work. So we clean our properties ourselves right now. We're picking up 2 this month and another one in July. From that, what I plan on trying to do is to hire a cleaner that I pay hourly, not pay per thing. That way I can kind of manage them as a boots on the ground person. If August Lock needs new batteries, the Rangers need new batteries and charge and change and all these little things. I want to get a storage unit here that can host and facilitate all the stuff so they come and turn from that place. So as I scale, once you scale, you have a little bit more capital to work with, which starts going into your expenses and everything. So I am still cleaning my properties at this point in time. I plan, hopefully by August, to not be, and be able to work in to hire somebody to do it specifically for me.
What do the kids do?
Kids go, Raylan is the 3-year-old, about to turn 4. She goes upstairs, 2 beds! 2 beds! So she'll go into the bedroom and kind of, she helps out.
Yeah.
One cries and watches Cocomelon, while the other one comes and puts the accent colors back where they need to go.
There you go. Love it.
But as a family, that's what's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love it.
For rental arbitrage, how do you find landlords that are okay with
So,
Just the question is, how do we find landlords that are okay with rental arbitrage? Real quick, because I know that's a big question.
Sure. All right.
Might
So,
talk to him after.
so one thing that I know is real estate. I know real estate very well, not just short-term rentals, but just real estate in general. I love real estate. Talk about it any day, every day. I think people think I call like 100 people and get no. It means 99 no's before you get 1 yes. I've called since I've started this over a year, maybe 15 people, and I'm at the 6 properties that I'm at. It's such a win-win situation. I go to Zillow. I look for people that are renting their property, but property owners, because property management companies, they don't want to deal with it. So I look for people renting their own property. I call them up, and I have my own pitch, my own sales technique, and I know how to talk to people well enough to say, look, this is a win-win situation. This is why it's beneficial for you, all the way around.
I saw someone over here. Yeah.
So, to kind of take a different spin on this, when it comes to your tenants, what kind of trends have you seen with people, reasons why they're picking your Airbnbs? Have you adjusted your advertisements on Airbnb for that reason? And where have you seen the trends in the last year or two? Where do you think they're going over the next couple of years?
I love that question. That's a good question because he's leading into trends and future forecasts. So the question is, what are the trends now and where they're going, and what are we seeing guests book? Why are we seeing them book, and are you making changes for that? So we got about 5 minutes that we're going to do this, and I'm going to ask one final question. So let's go with that one because it's a good question.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I haven't seen the reasons changing that much. I mean, the things that are drawing people to Columbia continue to draw them to Columbia. The University of South Carolina, Fort Jackson, surprisingly Riverbend Zoo is a really big draw. People are going to the Congaree, and we just get people coming in town for work and to visit family. A lot of people just here deciding that they want to maybe move here, so they're just coming in town to explore, check out the area. Columbia is actually apparently a really growing city, so we get a lot of people like that who are just staying 1 to 2 weeks and just checking out the area, deciding whether they're going to move. Usually the only way I adapt to that is if I'm really close to one of those specific things, then we're calling that out in the title, at the top of the listing description, trying to make it well known that we're near that, whatever draw is, trying to make sure people are aware.
Like Lake Murray?
Yeah, Lake Murray. Yeah, and focus on that in your pictures too. Like if you're on the lake, that picture of the lake is your number one picture. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree. For us, it's been, I don't really know. Oh, sorry. I had a big mouth. Not used to the mic. So for us, it's been the same thing. I don't think the reason why people are looking has changed that much. I think that they come in for graduation. Is it that golf tournament? Whatever that big tournament is.
Masters.
Yeah, Masters. I don't know much about golf, but I know there's a big golf tournament that happens and people go really fast. And downtown, USC, concerts, family. I mean, everything you just said. I haven't really seen a change in why people are booking Airbnbs. We've seen a lot of people who are booking Airbnbs because they're in the transition of moving from the house that they just sold and waiting on the purchase. That's been new since the pandemic. We said that people are looking at short-term rentals for temporary housing until they find a house to purchase. So, yeah, it's been the same.
Yeah, I think we're all going to say the same thing. In my pitch, I said I run a short-term rental operation where I take individuals like travel nurses, businessmen, military, religious families that need a short-term accommodation and provide a rental for them. And I've had every single one of those all the time, constantly over and over again. Just had the river aspect, just had the zoo, had the 2-week stay for transitioning to a new place. Now, trend-wise, depending on what's happening, I don't see this city, I didn't notice something Andrew said. I didn't realize that potentially it's going to grow. I feel like this is a B city. I think this is a great market to be in short-term rental-wise because there's just constantly people. The university is such a big feed for people coming into this place constantly over and over again. So I would never want to go to an A city because I think that's super oversaturated and like you're not going to be able to, you have to be like number one to compete there. Here, it's like you said, I mean, maybe not. I see Aaron should have concept. I agree. I don't.
Sorry.
I don't know. I'm not doing it, so I can't really talk about it. But trend-wise, as long as the ordinance doesn't do anything to really abandon it, which would be stupid for them to do in my eyes, just because they're taking a step backwards. Trends, I don't see it going away. Look at Airbnb stock. Look at all the things that are happening. It's becoming a part of the natural world, like you expect it. So trend-wise, I say jump on the train while it's here.
Yeah. All right, so we will wrap it up. You guys have been amazing, but I want to just leave one more thing, and we'll leave a little bit of time for networking, for talking afterwards, so you guys don't have to leave here. But I want y'all just to give advice for someone that may have come here thinking that they were going to get in a short-term rental or didn't know really what it was. How could you get started today? In your opinion, from your experience, how would you get started if you went back knowing what you know now? Everyone's going to be different. I'm going to start with Itzel. I saw it in your face. You're like, don't start with me. Don't start with me.
I know. If I had to do it over again, how would I get started? Sorry. How would I get started? I would just say, just do it. That's the only way to get started. Just pilot it. It doesn't have to be perfect to begin with. I mean, if you have a property that has potential to be, if it's in a good location, and even location, I mean, we were talking a little while ago, I had one in Lake Carolina. Who can imagine an Airbnb in Lake Carolina? But it actually did okay. It wasn't, we didn't end up keeping it long term, but it did okay, and it helped us out. But just do it. Just don't overthink it. I mean, think about where you would like to stay when you go stay somewhere and just convert your property into something that's comfortable, that's you wouldn't mind staying in. Well, maybe, some people like, but make it clean, make it decent, put some good furniture in there, make it feel like home, because I think that's what they're looking for when they're traveling. So just do it.
Do it.
Yeah,
Love it.
Just
There you go.
try with it.
So one thing that I would kind of say, I'm very big on Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, all these like personal development people like that. I love it, live it. That's what I actually want to do if I were going to do anything. But anything we do in life is like 80% psychology and 20% strategy. So get out of the strategy and just start developing your psychology, start developing your own personal skills. I am very analytical in nature. I took 6 months before starting anything. I had the analysis paralysis because I listened to this person and this person. They all said little tweaky different things, which really just starts to confuse you. Well, which pricing strategy do I need to use? What software? I don't know. I find one person on YouTube, Sean Rocketcheek, Airbnb Automated. That's what I would suggest if I were to say anything. Watch his playlist on how to get started. Watch it again, and if you have questions from there, maybe watch it the third time if you can't answer the questions he's going to say, and then just start. Because you're going to fail. Anything you do in life, you're going to fail a little bit. The only thing is, don't fail backwards. Don't fall backwards. I don't want to fall backwards. I want to fall forward if I'm going to do something. So just take anything. If you're going to fail at something, you only fail if you give up. Okay? That's the only way you fail. That's it. It's either win or it's learn. So every time you have an obstacle, just learn what happened and then do it differently. So Airbnb Automated, watch all those YouTube videos, and then start. You're going to do rental arbitrage.
Just do it. There you go.
I've watched all those. They're awesome. He's got some great advice. I guess my advice is a little more tactical. Like if I was gonna figure out where to buy and what to buy right now, and I went back to mine before I had a kid, I would probably house hack. I mean, I would get a duplex, live in one side, Airbnb the other side, and you're gonna be right there, so you can clean it, keep an eye on it, you can tweak it, do whatever you want. You'll just be right there, and you'll learn a lot. You'll be right next to it. You'll hear what the people are saying probably. The walls will be thin. But that's how I would do it. If I could go back and do it again, I think you'll make a lot of money that way. Probably more than enough to pay the mortgage and then some, and the house hacking. So I think that would be the way I do it.
Awesome. Can we get a round of applause? Thank y'all so much. I do want to extend an invitation. If y'all want to give your emails and put it on the Facebook group, just drop it under this thing right here, the screen here from the post. Go on the Facebook group, just put your email or however you want people to contact you. That way if they're not here or if they don't catch you here, they can reach out. Is that okay with y'all? Okay, awesome. So thank y'all very much for being here. This was amazing. Anybody learn anything today?
Yes.
I did. All right, so this is REI Live. We will do this again in August. Tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Bring your own coffee. We're going to talk about cash flow. It can be Airbnb cash flow, if that's what you want to talk about. So we'll be at our office, and then on Wednesday, next Wednesday, is on-site. So check the Facebook group for that. You don't have to leave, but you're going to hang out and network. We will see y'all tomorrow, maybe. All right? Thank y'all.